The Life of Buddha, Part 1, Introduction. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Gautama Buddha is one of the greatest figures in human history. His life and teachings continue to inspire millions of people around the world, transcending the boundaries of time and space. Born as a prince, he renounced his luxurious life to seek the ultimate truth. After 6 years of ascetic practice, he attained enlightenment and became the Buddha. For the next 45 years, he traveled extensively to spread his teachings, helping countless beings to overcome suffering and achieve liberation. To help people better understand the life and teachings of the Buddha, we are pleased to introduce the video series, The Life of Buddha, based on the work One Life, One Sun and Moon by Zen Master Gioi Duc. This video series will be broadcast on the YouTube channel Buddhist Stories at 7 p.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays every week. Through this video series, we hope to provide you with a deep and comprehensive look at the life of the Buddha, helping us better understand his teachings and apply them to our daily lives. We cordially invite you to watch. And now, if you haven't subscribed to the Buddha Stories YouTube channel yet, please pause the video and click the subscribe button so you don't miss any episode of this series. Also, please leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Share the video with friends and family to spread the Buddha's teachings in the spirit of continuing the flame, guiding future generations, repaying the Buddha's grace. Your support will be a great motivation for us to continue creating meaningful content to help you find peace, enlightenment, and liberation from life's sufferings. Introduction by Venerable Vian Minh. The life of the Buddha is an endless source of inspiration for many historians, philosophers, scholars, writers, poets, archaeologists, musicians, artists, sculptors, playwrights, filmmakers, and theater professionals. For thousands of years, countless works about the life of the Buddha have been created, ranging from historical and scientific accounts to artistic inspirations or expressions of pure religious devotion. These diverse and significant works have profoundly influenced the hearts and minds of countless readers, viewers, pilgrims, and art enthusiasts. However, through literature, poetry, painting, and sculpture, some works inevitably bear the imprint of the author's personality, emotions, style, perspective, or subjective level of understanding. As a result, many authors have transformed the historical Buddha into a mythical figure or a supernatural being. Other authors, intending to equate the Buddha's life with their own subjective activities to showcase their ego or enhance their personal prestige, have not hesitated to portray the Buddha as an ordinary, vulgar person. Most harmfully, some non-Buddhist authors, with the intention of undermining Buddhism, have cleverly exalted the Buddha to the skies, but in reality, this was done to distort the truth and deceive the public. Recognizing this danger, Venerable Gioi Duc has patiently read numerous works, along with reliable historical sources, to research, investigate, compare, and verify the truth through historical evidence. His aspiration is to contribute a work that is rich in literary and artistic value, while providing the most objective and truthful details about the life of the Buddha. With a storytelling style, there are naturally many fictional literary passages intended only to transition, to make the story more poetic and engaging, while clarifying the context of historical events without losing the profound, mysterious meaning of the Dharma talks that are sequentially quoted in an honest, timely, and appropriate manner. I am honored to introduce the work One Life, One Sun and Moon to our readers so that we can share with the author a deep reverence for an enlightened being full of wisdom and selfless love, a historical figure who is transcendent and radiant like a sun and moon. Sincerely, Bu Long Ancestral Temple, April 20th, 2008. Venerable Vian Minh. The Ancient Kingdom. Legend has it that in ancient times, a noble race from northwestern India established a powerful kingdom. The first king was said to be a previous incarnation of Buddha Shakyamuni Gautama. For hundreds of generations of kings, they lived in peace and happiness. The reign of Okaka III marked the beginning of a crisis. This king had a queen named Bada and 4 consorts, Siddha, Jantu, Jatni, and Visakha. Queen Bada bore 5 princesses Piya, Supiya, Ananda, Vijita, Vijitasana, and 4 princes Okamukha, Karakanda, Hathinika, Sinapura. After the queen's death, King Okaka III made Jantu his chief consort. She gave birth to a prince whom the king deeply loved, granting her a wish. She wished only for her son to inherit the throne. King Okaka III was deeply troubled. He couldn't break his promise, yet the character and intellect of the elder princes were unparalleled, with no flaws in their virtue. Crowning the younger son over the elder ones would sow seeds of conflict, leaving a shameful bloodstain on future dynasties. Unsure how to respond to his beloved queen, the king consulted with his children. After hearing the situation, the eldest princess, Pia, honestly advised, "Father, as king of a nation, you cannot break your word and face public ridicule." Prince Okamuka, whom the king had intended to succeed him, agreed with his sister, but added, "Please don't be sad, father. The person you favor has deep, unfathomable intentions. However, please be at ease. We have a plan." King Okaka III was surprised. "So you all knew everything, and you've already discussed it among yourselves?" The 5 princesses and 4 princes nodded silently, looking at their father with eyes full of sorrow. Prince Okamuka bowed his head and spoke calmly. "We are all grown up, but have not yet shouldered the responsibilities of the kingdom. How can we let our royal father bear this additional worry? Please promise to make our younger brother the crown prince. We have no jealousy. However, all of us will leave to build a new kingdom. We are determined, and we will succeed in this endeavor." Princess Pia also stood up and said, "Father, please do not worry. Our ancestors and lineage are all heroes, and our people have established kingdoms through dangers and hardships before. So tomorrow, we will set out. Father should replace his sorrow with the joy of old age." Despite these words, no one could hide their emotions before the parting, and tears flowed freely. The 5 princesses and 4 heroic princes left when the earth was still misty, with horses, soldiers, servants, food, clothes, and belongings, like a great migration. It was nearly noon before the last troop disappeared through the palace gates. King Okaka III stood on a high tower, his eyes red with tears, watching the last traces of dust on the far horizon. At the foot of the Himalayan mountains, there was a deep, mysterious forest called Hemabama, famous for its lions, tigers, leopards, and other wild animals. The ascetic Kapila built a hut and lived in seclusion here. Ascetic Kapila had attained the 8 jhanas and possessed supernatural powers. He protected this vast, lush forest full of fruits, sweet water, and wholesome trees. Every morning he would enter into meditation, ascending and descending from the 1st to the 8th jhana, then back to the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st jhana. Maintaining the access concentration of the 1st jhana, he developed boundless loving kindness, like a cool, peaceful breeze, filling the space and enveloping everything. When fierce animals chased gentle ones, as they reached this boundary, they would suddenly slow down. Their aggressive, ferocious, bloodthirsty natures would subside, and they would become gentle and docile. Thus, over time, the Hemabama forest became a peaceful and tranquil kingdom. One day, while meditating on a flat, high rock on a mountainside, amidst mist and mountain air, as ascetic Kapila emerged from his meditation, the morning star had just risen, and the waning moon peeked through a milky white cloud cover. He felt happiness permeating every fiber of his being, overflowing into the quiet space. Night birds peacefully flew back and forth. A cool breeze blew, making the ascetic's snow-white hair flutter. Something seemed different. Ascetic Kapila stood up, his bright, keen eyes piercing through the mist, and saw flickering lights in the distance. Stationary lights and moving lights. Could it be a group of nomads? No, too many lights, and there were even burning torches around canvas tents. Suddenly, ascetic Kapila sat down and concentrated. After a moment, he smiled. So that's what it is. Then, regardless of the night, the ascetic left the rock and headed towards the lights, walking swiftly. Let's return to the story of the 5 princesses and 4 princes who were determined to leave and establish a kingdom. Following the orders of the eldest princess and Prince Okamuka, they headed towards the Himalayan mountains. Setting up camp at night and striking tents during the day, after more than a month of travel, they stopped at a lush, beautiful forest. Throughout the long journey, although they still followed their sister and brother's words, the young princes couldn't stop grumbling. They said, "With the intellect and talent of our 9 minds, with our 18 young and strong arms, with thousands of volunteer soldiers skilled in battle, with such undefeated generals and brave commanders, we could conquer any kingdom in Jambudvipa. Why don't we seize a rich and powerful country to live in and develop our great abilities, instead of going into deep mountains and snowy wilderness to chase rabbits and catch foxes?" Princess Pia gently said, "My dear siblings, we haven't lost our kingdom yet, and we're already suffering like this. How much more for those whose mountains and rivers, land and people are conquered? Put yourself in their situation, and you'll understand why we shouldn't do such an unrighteous deed." Prince Okamuka, agreeing with his sister, smiled and said, "Do you know what makes a true hero?" The youngest prince replied, "A hero must be someone with the ambition to fill the sea and mend the sky, to build an empire from nothing." Prince Okamuka nodded in agreement. "That's right, you are all heroes. How could heroes go and rob others? Would heroes sit on a pile of achievements that others have built for them?" The young, ambitious, and warlike princes fell silent, choked with emotion. Now they fully trusted the wisdom of their sister and brother. That day, as soon as they set up camp, they felt as if all the fatigue from their long journey had been lifted, because the place they found was so beautiful and lush. Prince Okamuka took his sword, cut a piece of soil, tasted it, smelled it, and said, "The land is like oozing honey and fat, and everywhere ripe fruits of all kinds hang from the branches, so we need not worry about our survival." Everyone beamed with joy. As night fell, all 9 of them gathered around the campfire, eating, drinking, and talking enthusiastically until nearly dawn, unable to sleep. The ambition to establish a kingdom burned hot in their blood. Finally, Prince Okamuka concluded, "Surely we will be able to give birth to a powerful and prosperous nation here, right in this vast and fertile forest." Suddenly, a voice echoed behind them. "That's right. You will certainly achieve that miraculous and extraordinary feat." Everyone turned around. An old ascetic, as ancient as a snow-capped mountain, gaunt and bony like an old plum tree, sturdy and steady as a pine, clothes woven from bark and leaves, eyes shining like 2 stars, with an otherworldly appearance as if he had been standing there for a long time, was looking at them, smiling gently. Without prompting, they all bowed their heads and clasped their hands. "We respectfully greet you, venerable sage." It was the ascetic Kapila. He sat down warmly by the campfire and said cheerfully, "Yes, you are right to call me a sage, for after abandoning this mortal body here, I will be reborn in the highest heaven, higher than all beings in the 3 realms." "Is that not the supreme sage?" Everyone looked confused, not understanding. Ascetic Kapila did not explain, but instead changed the subject. "There is another very strange matter. I am the ancestor of dozens, hundreds of generations of your ancestors. I was the first king who established the first kingdom, passing it down through countless generations until it reached King Okaka III, who is your father now." Everyone's eyes widened. Taking pity, ascetic Kapila then told the princesses and princes about the results of his supernatural ability to clearly see and know past lives. He also briefly recounted his own past lives. He opened the door slightly to the secret of beings' lives in the cycle of birth and death, karma and rebirth across the 3 realms and 6 paths. Oh, knowing this was truly shameful. In that cycle of birth and death, beings had been husbands, fathers, wives, brothers, sisters to each other, repeating and reenacting this endlessly. Oh, that stream of birth and death was truly immoral, utterly absurd. Anyone without enough concentration and mental strength would surely die from shame and shock. The princesses and princes bowed their heads respectfully and listened. Oh, these were indeed very novel things. They shuddered, feeling chills. They felt discouraged about life, discouraged about all matters of gain and loss, victory and defeat, success and failure in life. They were all just illusory and tragic games with a tragicomic nature. The eldest prince, Okamuka, suddenly knelt down. "Venerable sage, please let me renounce and become an ascetic. Please let me step out of this terrifying immoral cycle of birth and death." The ascetic shook his head regretfully. "It's useless, my child." "Why?" "Why? Because even renouncing and becoming an ascetic like me hasn't yielded the desired results. Thanks to my meditation practice, after this life, I will be reborn in the highest heavenly realm. But when the merits of meditation are exhausted, I will fall back down again, still subject to birth and death forever. I haven't found the way out of the cycle of rebirth and death, my children." Prince Okamuka was surprised. So who has managed to escape? Oh, I don't know either. Moreover, that's the path I'm still pondering and struggling with. I've been searching for a very long time, having gone through countless lifetimes. But it's as difficult as finding a needle at the bottom of the ocean. It seems even harder to find the path to liberation from suffering. Do you understand this, my children? They shook their heads dejectedly. Then they sighed. Suddenly, the ascetic Kapila laughed loudly. But that's my duty, not your responsibility. Your immediate task is to enthusiastically establish a kingdom. Do you understand that? Prince Okamuka frowned. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. The ascetic Kapila had to explain kindly again. It's difficult for you to understand the intricacies of cause and effect. But listen, I don't know if you'll believe this, but I know clearly the flow of your minds and your karma. I also know that you're not ready to renounce the world yet, but you will create a lineage of heroes that will be remembered in history, right here, on this land. You can't do otherwise. Trusting the ascetic, everyone was determined to build the kingdom together. However, the ascetic noted, there are many fierce animals here. I will try to protect you, but you must promise me one thing. Please tell us, you must not kill any animal in this Himabama forest. Even a single thought of killing arising in your mind means you've already harmed yourself. They didn't understand. The ascetic Kapila, who was a previous incarnation of Buddha Shakyamuni Gautama, told everyone to be quiet, including the soldiers and all the attendants and servants. Then the ascetic closed his eyes, sat in the lotus position, concentrated his mind, and entered the state of boundless loving-kindness meditation. After a while, a vibrant energy from the boundless loving-kindness meditation radiated out, filling his entire body, overflowing to the outside, encompassing the vast space. Then that loving-kindness energy permeated even the tiniest hair follicles and cells of everyone. It spread to the treetops, blades of grass, and all living beings. After a long time, the ascetic came out of meditation, opened his eyes, looked at everyone, and smiled gently. Did you feel something, my children? They replied, yes, there was something very cool and peaceful permeating everywhere. The ascetic nodded. That's right. That is the concentration of loving kindness. That cool, peaceful energy is emanating from loving kindness. I have been cultivating that boundless loving kindness concentration for a very long time, my children. Now listen to my question. Yes, we're listening. When that cool, peaceful energy of loving kindness permeates your mind, do states like anger, irritation, discomfort, ferocity, or cruelty arise in your mind? No, they don't. The ascetic looked into the distance. In the past, this forest was famous for its many fierce animals, so I had to practice loving kindness meditation, making that loving kindness abundant and encompassing all beings and things. Those fierce animals living here were gradually subdued and transformed by that cool, peaceful energy, becoming gentle and no longer harboring thoughts of harming each other. Because they were so hungry, they had to go very far from this place. Do you understand that? Yes, we understand. So when you give rise to thoughts of anger or killing, aren't you stirring up thoughts of anger and killing in the minds of those fierce animals? That's correct. If you kill them, they will kill you in return. Isn't that right? Absolutely right. So if you want the fierce animals not to harm you, what must you do? How can you protect yourselves? Prince Okamuka said, first, we must not harbor thoughts of killing, and second, we must cultivate loving kindness as you have done, venerable ascetic. Ascetic Kapila smiled. That's right. Then he explained further. The act of not killing is already the first fortress protecting your lives. However, that first fortress is not yet safe enough. You must build a second fortress, that is to cultivate the concentration of loving kindness and spread that peaceful, cool energy around. If everyone refrains from killing, if everyone cultivates loving kindness concentration, if everyone spreads peace and coolness, it will create a great collective force, a great energy encompassing all beings and things. And that is truly the most solid and strong fortress protecting the lives of all beings. The crowd of officials and soldiers around them clamored, "It's too difficult. It's too difficult. So we can't eat wild game anymore, not even livestock. Even eels, loaches, crabs, fish are all forbidden." Princess Pia and Prince Okamuka felt very conflicted. The sage's words were true, but so were the opinions of the majority. They were not renunciant ascetics, but brave warriors on the battlefield, accustomed to a life of killing and eating meat, drinking alcohol. The ascetic Kapila, of course, understood their dilemma, so he offered a way out. There will be a few people here who can observe this precept, while the majority cannot. I understand that, but something is better than nothing. If a few of you persist in practicing, that energy will gradually spread to those around you. Prince Okamuka nodded. Yes, I will be the first one. Princess Pia also replied, and I will be the second. Then, one by one, a few other princesses and princes volunteered to follow their brother and sister's example. A tall, strong young warrior spoke in a booming voice. I have a suggestion. All generals and soldiers who want to hunt wild animals should go very far from this Hemabama forest. This is also a small measure contributing to the protection of everyone's safety and life. The ascetic Kapila smiled. That's good. That's valuable too. A few days later, the ascetic Kapila diligently led the princesses and princes to tour all the forest areas. Due to his ability to remember past lives, the ascetic carefully explained to them about each mountain formation and each piece of land. Where to make fields, plantations, gardens, where to build houses, villages, where to establish workshops, warehouses, stations, where the feng shui was suitable for building the capital. He also showed them how to use water sources for drinking, daily activities, and increasing production. Their endless food source was fruit, so the forests were carefully preserved and protected. The food supplies brought by thousands of people were used for 6 months, and with fruit and wild game hunted from distant areas, this period was extended. Thanks to the fertile land and endless water sources for irrigation, the harvest was bountiful. All kinds of agricultural products, food, vegetables, and fruits were abundant and surplus. They only needed to cultivate one crop to eat for the whole year. Then, hamlets and villages gradually appeared. Fields, gardens, roads, bridges were connected from one valley to another plain. Prince Okamuka and the princess were indeed talented leaders, knowledgeable and versed in many fields. They began to draw up plans to build the capital. The remaining 3 princes and 4 princesses led their generals, soldiers, and trusted people further away, establishing 7 settlements surrounding the capital, creating a very favorable interconnected system for defense and mutual assistance. Our heroic bloodline must be preserved. As the eldest sister, I have the authority to make decisions like our father and mother. The 8 of you, brothers and sisters, must marry each other and establish families to protect our lineage. I must call a meeting to announce this. I'm telling you in advance so you can prepare yourselves mentally. Prince Okamuka objected. I've heard of cousins marrying, but siblings? Who could do such a thing? I absolutely refuse. Princess Pia felt very conflicted, but the heroic bloodline couldn't be allowed to dilute into other families, so she went to consult the ascetic Kapila. He said, "This is not something I can intervene in." Princess Pia challenged the ascetic, "But didn't you say that in the cycle of birth and death, beings become husbands, fathers, mothers, wives, or children to each other, without following any particular moral code?" The ascetic replied, "That's correct." Princess Pia then gathered her siblings and concluded in a loud voice, "Did you hear that truth? Worldly morality is just a human imposition. From now on, in this kingdom, we will establish a new morality, allowing siblings to marry to protect our bloodline. Marry to protect our bloodline. We live, work, and start families not for ourselves, but for our entire lineage. Our ancestors decided this, not us." No one could argue against the princess's strange logic. She cast lots to pair up her 8 siblings into 4 couples. Her authority was like that of a dictatorial mother, so everyone had to bow their heads and comply. Then, decades later, a new kingdom was established at the foot of the Himalayas, named Kapilavatu in honor of the ascetic Kapila. This realm grew stronger day by day, its fame spreading to surrounding countries. When King Okaka III heard this news, he exclaimed with joy, "Truly heroic children. My offspring are indeed of heroic lineage." Heroic lineage in Sanskrit is Sakya, so later this clan was named Sakya, and the throne was passed down from generation to generation. From Okamuka's time to King Jayasena's reign, many descendants inherited the throne. After King Jayasena came King Sihahanu, then Suddhodana, who became the father of Prince Siddhārtha. Dear ladies and gentlemen, You have just listened to the video about the life of Buddha Shakyamuni, adapted from the work A Life, a Sun and Moon by Master Gioi Duc. This video series will be broadcast at 7 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the YouTube channel Buddhist Story. We sincerely thank you for watching. To not miss the next episodes, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you find the content useful, please share this video with your relatives and friends. All your comments are very valuable to us. Please leave comments below the video so we can discuss and share together. Thank you, and see you again in the next episodes of the video series, The Life of Buddha Shakyamuni.